Well, you're very welcome to another vlog, and this time around it's all about seascape photography. And more specifically, I had an idea that popped into my head regarding the wonderful colours of the rocks of the Copper Coast in County Waterford. And I'm going to spend a day and a half or 2 days exploring not so much the seascapes, but focusing on the various colours of the rocks in the area here. And I'm starting that adventure here at Caliso Bay, which is west of Dungarvan. And you'll see from the rock behind me, look at that reddish tinge. And why Caliso Bay, you may ask? And the reason is I took a club trip with Greystones Camera Club, I think about a year ago now. And we came down to this beach and we were all a little bit disappointed. And you really have to seek out the coloured rocks. And they're not obvious to you when you arrive down on the snaking road, which winds its way down onto the beach. But I remember I hopped out of the van on that occasion in the lashing rain, and I took a photograph just for the sake of taking a photograph. And it was my favourite image of that trip. And I noticed the deep emerald green and the barnacle encrusted rocks that I had taken a photograph of, and they were just that, a small rock. So I decided to come back today. Now the rain helped that image because it gave it saturation and wetness. And at the moment the tide is out. I haven't planned the trip as well as I should have, but nonetheless it's good to get the first photograph in the bag, and I chose this subject, this beautiful reddish rock, which when compared to the grey rock beside it, it jumps out. And the area around the beach here to the west end here and also on the east end is it's just full of these red and deep green rocks, which really are remarkable. But I don't think I'm going to get the light here this evening, because in summer the sun sets behind the coves here and it rises behind the coves here. It's August now. And the optimum time to come to the Copper Coast for that warm evening and morning light is October through March. Yesterday evening I made my way to Ballyvooney Cove with the purpose of photographing the colourful rocks here, fitting in with the theme of this video, the multicoloured rocks of the Copper Coast. But before I set out to explore those coloured rocks, I'll make my way over to the far side of the bay shortly. I decided to come over to the western end of the bay, looking back east to the rising sun. And I've clambered up quite a big rock here, and standing on the top of it. And I've made a composition. There was no light for a while, and then the sun popped up, and obviously the blood started getting going in the system. I started popping on filters, taking off filters, giving myself options in the foreground with a 3 second, 6 second, 15, 30 second exposure. So I can blend some of those images together. And then the most important exposure of all is to get that sun correct when it comes up. And it's not the easiest thing to do. You have a very limited time, and you really need to take a good exposure of the sky with the sun in it. Luckily enough, there's a lovely trail of sunlight connecting the background of the image to the foreground of the image. But in the process of doing that, the two filters that I placed on the front of the 14 to 35 seemed to stay on the front of the lens, but there was no magnetic clip on it. I had taken it off the lens previously. So they popped off, but only went a few feet down the rock face, and I was able to clamber down and get them. 1 or 2 little scratches, but there it is. That's the price you pay. Well, what a kaleidoscope of colour behind me. Unfortunately, the tide is coming in a lot quicker than I had expected, and I'm blocked from entering into the next cove, which I know has even more coloured rocks. But I think this cliff face demonstrates the mudstones and the sandstones from over 400 million years ago that have deposited at the bottom of the cliff here at Ballyvooney Cove. Now the next challenge is to take a photograph. So I'm going to look for patterns within the cliff face. I'm going to reach for the polarizer and it'll be a very abstract image. There's no direct light on the rock, and in many respects that's a good thing, because the textures and the colours of the rocks will be true to what is there. And I don't really need any direct light to enhance the contrast in such a colourful cliff face as this. So I'm going to get busy. I'm going to get the circular polarizer out to try to bring these colours out, to find a pattern that's pleasing, that takes away a memory of Ballyvooney. And also, I need to keep an eye on the tide that's rushing in behind the camera now. But I have a good window, I'd say, of 20-25 minutes. But whilst I'm looking at the rock face, I need to be regularly looking behind my back as well. So let's get busy and looking for that pattern. Well, I must say this practice of searching for colours and textures in a cliff face is very therapeutic. And as you focus and concentrate more and more on those textures and the cracks in the cliff, you become absorbed in that practice. And time slips by. It's 20 minutes now since I have started, and I have kept an eye behind me for the tide coming in, and it is coming in. But what I've noticed is that the tide is coming in so quickly that it may afford me the opportunity to take the water with a long exposure, brushing up against the base of the coloured rock, which are behind me now. So I might go back to the camper van, get a little bit of breakfast, and come down with the 100 to 400. I might not be able to access this corner of the cove, but we can try that, and it may make for an interesting image. And as I walked along Benvoy Beach to take an image of this chap here, I noticed the colour here. Look at that. What a beautiful mustard copper colour. And then this rock here has its own unique flavour of colours. The light has flattened down now. Now I'm pinned on a ledge halfway up about a 10 metre kind of cliff edge, jagged rocks. So I'm going to stop the audio and carefully carry my camera back down, and we might go and take that sea stack on the right there on its own. Well, I've been working at this sea stack for a good while now, 15 or 20 minutes, moving the tripod left and right, up and down, and discontent with a landscape image. I've gone for a portrait image, putting the sea stack and its little cousin there to the left, because the C-stack on its own just didn't work when I zoomed in. It needed that second C-stack to give it a little bit of balance. And I'm happiest with this image. The issue of the sloping line of the shore was eliminated by using a 30-second exposure, and also just removing the shoreline. It's a little bit messy. There's nice pebbles here and there, but I just kept the image very, very simple. So I'll put that up there and we'll move on to the next location. Well, it looks like the drizzle has got the better of me, and the forecast for tomorrow is heavy rain. So I'm going to conclude the vlog here, and I think in a very fitting place. I have come looking for a composition that I found through scrambling over rocks a number of years ago. I very much liked that composition, and I just came to recreate it. Little did I know that I would find what I've centered this vlog around, which are the wonderfully colored rocks on the Copper Coast. Luckily the tide has been in, so all of the sand and the pebbles here are pristine. I've even tiptoed in so I wouldn't disturb the foreground for the vlog. But these, with the rain, the beautiful colours here, light greens and greys, there's reds over the far side. And this particular image that I'm sitting in at the moment is kind of an S shape. And I've included the sand, that monotone, and then the shape of the rocks, using the circular polarizer to bring out the colour and reduce some of the glare. And thankfully, actually, the drizzle is serving me now, because there is no direct light, but you'll still see some little highlights here because this rock is so reflective. So I hope you've enjoyed this vlog. I know it's something a little bit different. So next time around, hopefully I will be photographing fungi, the mycelium network, the wood wide web in the oak forests of County Wicklow. And if you like the content, please do subscribe. And until next time, thanks very much for watching.